Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, it is great to see such a fantastic crowd here in Petaluma. I understand some people are still parking and trying to find spots. So as you continue to trickle in, let me just say there's still a few seats up close, but let's fill in as best we can. But as you continue to trickle in, let me just say we're here in a veterans building. Normally at town halls, I would love to do things like honor guard and a little bit of ceremony to get us started. We have about an hour and a half, and I know that you all came here with really big things on your mind because there's a lot going on at every level. So please don't think that my lack of ceremony and color guards and things like that is any slight to the patriotism of this venue or to our great country. I just know we got a lot to talk about, and I want to dive in as quickly as we can. So, I love doing these big in-person town halls. I used to do them all the time, and then the pandemic came along and things kind of went off the rails. But now that our politics are so normal again, I think it's a great time to get back together. And so this is the third one I've done just in the early months of this year, and I hope to keep doing them because these town halls are super valuable. I think you having direct access to me and other elected officials is kind of what democracy is all about. It gives... And the value goes both ways, right? It gives you a chance to hold me accountable, but it also helps me and other elected officials stay in touch. And I always learn a lot just by hearing from you and having a dialogue with you. It's going to be pretty unscripted. I'm going to loosely follow a few notes here to get us started, but the dialogue we have is going to be very off the cuff, and it'll be driven by the questions and comments that you bring to the conversation. So it's okay if we have differing points of view. I kind of welcome it. It's always fun to talk with people that agree with you on everything, but probably the more important part for democracy and for civil discourse is figuring out a way to engage on things where we might have different opinions. So I welcome those, whatever your politics, whatever your point of view here today. And in fact, I think that if we show how to do that civilly, like grown-ups, maybe we can contribute to this terrible toxic politics in America, show people how it ought to be. The key, I think, to making that happen is just to do something. I will hold myself to this standard too. Let's listen to each other, okay? And let's not shout anybody down or interrupt anyone. Let's try to keep this as civil as we possibly can. Which brings me to the subject of protesters. It happens. This is democracy in 2025. And certainly I welcome peaceful expressions of First Amendment free speech and so forth. Once in a while it breaks out into things that can disrupt public dialogues like this. If it happens, I just want all of you to know as audience members, just stay calm. We've got amazing law enforcement and other folks here. We appreciate you, officers. And they are really good at finding ways to just peacefully de-escalate things, and we will be fine. Worst case, we might have a temporary interruption or two, but then we will just keep going. So fingers crossed on that. The way it's going to go is I will give a brief update on the work that I've been up to, some of my priorities, and then we'll get right into a dialogue with all of you. I have staff around the building with wireless microphones. And when you want to ask a question or make a comment, please raise your hand. And I see Jenny and Riley back there. They will do their best to get around to you. We are not censoring anyone. You can ask me about anything you want or say whatever you want. I do ask you to try to keep it to about 1 minute, certainly no more than 2 minutes. And the other thing, to make sure we can get to as many people as possible, if your question's already been asked by someone else, please just defer to the answer that we've already gotten. so that we can get to as many people as possible who came here. Now, I want to quickly acknowledge that we are joined by Petaluma's mayor, Kevin McDonald. Kevin, where are you? All right. It is great to have you. Thanks for allowing me into your beautiful town this evening. I suspect we might have some other elected officials, but I don't have a list of them, so forgive me if you're an elected official and I was unable to acknowledge you here today. All right, let's dive in. So, we're 4 weeks in to the second Trump presidency, and it has been the longest 4 years of my life. I would love to spend this town hall talking to you about a lot of the good things that we've been able to do, because there actually are some big ones, especially the last few years, and they deserve some discussion. I mean, for example, I've been your congressman for 12 years, and since I was sworn in, there's one issue I've been hearing about at town halls from day one, and it's a little thing called the windfall elimination penalty. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that if anyone has spent part of their career as a teacher or a firefighter in one of those pension programs, their Social Security retirement benefits are dramatically reduced. It's a terrible policy, never should have been on the books, and we've spent years trying to reform it. I've co-sponsored a bill every year I've been in Congress to fix it. Well, guess what? A couple months ago, we fixed it. I think that's kind of a big deal for the retirement security of millions of folks. I'll give you another example. I've got a lot of fire victims here in Sonoma County, and many of them not only had to accept pennies on the dollar for their losses because of PG&E's bankruptcy and the settlement that was not enough to make them whole, but we added insult to injury by turning it around at the federal level and taxing them on that settlement. And so my colleague Mike Thompson and I, for the last few years, have been working on getting rid of that tax penalty, and we finally did that a couple months ago. In addition to that, we have brought home in the last few years just transformative federal investments in all kinds of things, from affordable housing and veterans housing to all types of infrastructure, clean water infrastructure, clean power, so many different things. $47.7 million just to Sonoma County in the past few years from the bipartisan infrastructure law for things like bridge repair and road maintenance. Millions of dollars for SMART. And so we're now going to be able to take SMART soon to Windsor, but then over the bridge to Healdsburg and on to Cloverdale, as well as funding some multi-youth pathways along the way because of these incredible investments. A little north of here in Santa Rosa, we were able to get millions of dollars for EV buses and charging networks. And I could just spend a lot of time going through all of these transformative investments. But good things have been happening. I wish we could think about and talk about them a little more, but I know that many of you here today are thinking about just the dizzying, flood the zone, daily chaos of what's been going on in Washington with the Trump administration. And of course, we've got dozens of executive orders that started going out on day one. Some of them deeply disturbing, like pardoning all the January 6th felons, dramatically changing our border and immigration policy, including threatening to use the military at the border in ways that are constitutionally quite problematic, gutting clean energy and climate progress, attacking public lands protections, invoking something that is almost never invoked in our country's history, this thing in the Endangered Species Act called the God Squad, where cabinet officials can convene and decide to exempt certain projects from any compliance with the Endangered Species Act, even if it's going to cause the extinction of a species. It's extreme. It's super extreme. And that is one of the executive orders. And then all of this culture war stuff. All of these attacks on things like sustainability and climate action as wokeness and part of the so-called Green New Deal and executive orders that freeze entire programs and suspend funding and terminate contracts and all kinds of things in service of this culture war that includes going after DEI. I don't know how diversity, equity, and inclusion became dirty words. Those are good values, folks, and we've done a lot of good. We have done a lot of good for disadvantaged communities, including Indian country. I represent more tribes than anyone in the lower 48 states in my congressional district. And we have done so much to lift up their quality of life and give them economic development and social justice in the name of equity, often. And now all of that is under this cloud of executive orders, and a lot of funding has been frozen and programs stopped. So it's having a real terrible impact. But you know, the executive orders just go on and on. They're almost overwhelming. Things like promoting cryptocurrency while the Trump family is being enriched to the tune of billions of dollars by these crypto grifts that they are part of, waiving security clearances for anyone that Donald Trump hires, including these unofficial characters from Doge with Elon Musk who are running around. Yeah, I feel the same way about that. Firing scores of prosecutors and federal employees. There was a Friday night massacre of inspectors general at 16 or 17 different federal agencies. And you know, that may seem kind of abstract to a lot of Americans. We got a lot of civic education to do. But the inspectors general used to be one of these things, these independent watchdogs that actually do go after waste, fraud, and abuse. Throughout the federal government, members of both parties used to absolutely love inspectors general. And the last time around when Donald Trump was president, he got rid of several of them because they embarrassed him. They revealed a whole bunch of corruption in the Interior Department and other places. And so he, you know, did a political firing of inspectors general. And so after his presidency in 2022, we passed a bipartisan reform to say that, you know, presidents, if they're going to get rid of an inspector general, have to give 30 days notice to Congress, and they've got to provide a specific explanation of why they are doing this. Donald Trump ignored the law and just fired, I think, 17 inspectors general. So it's one of many examples where the Republican majority in this Congress doesn't seem to want to hold this president accountable at all. He is flouting laws that we passed on a bipartisan basis, just like that inspector general reform. And then, you know, some of the things he does, they range from comical to really dangerous. The comical, you know, probably comical, the idea of taking over Greenland, making Canada the 51st state. I mean, we probably shouldn't spend too much time, you know, being exasperated about that. But you get into things that are really dangerous, like what happened with Russia and Ukraine just in the last few days. Fundamentally turning U.S. policy for the past 70 years on its head in ways that are going to have profound and deeply dangerous impacts, really for global security and certainly for European security, and ways that are just antithetical to American values. It is just horrifying to see an American president saying and doing these things. Of course, we know that these freezes across pretty much every federal agency are having all kinds of real impacts, and it may sound nice to some people that Elon Musk, you know, is bringing a chainsaw into these agencies and purporting to save a whole bunch of money. Let me tell you, every day we're finding out these guys have no idea what they're doing. So just in the last 24 hours, one of the agencies that the Doge tech bros went in and started laying people off at is the folks that run these power marketing administrations to keep the electricity going, to keep the grid alive in much of the country. Talking about like the Tennessee Valley Authority, the Bonneville Power Authority, the Western Association of Power Agencies. Huge swaths of the United States depend on these agencies that are technically federal agencies, but they're not funded by taxpayers. And so the Doge team rolled in and started doing layoffs to people that are ordering power, that are balancing the grid, that are keeping the lights on all over the United States, and then had to realize, oops, that didn't save the taxpayers any money. We've got to go try to rehire all these people that we just fired. So complete chaos. It's happening through a lot of the agencies that need to be doing work right now to keep us safe from wildfire. I'm talking about the Forest Service, the National Park Service, and BLM. And projects all over my district, all over the West, are stopped right now. And some are being canceled because of these actions by Doge and President Trump in the name of saving money, but they're going to cost us lives. They are going to make us less safe. It's already happening. So, I'm sure you're going to ask me questions that take us into so many other of these examples, but just today, I saw another executive order, and this one's really weird, where President Trump is purporting to end congestion pricing for the city of New York. Right now, traffic management in American cities is not something a president of the United States has any authority over. It's just not. It's just not. But to do an executive order that purports to do that and to then tweet out pictures of the president with a crown on his head and a meme that says, "Long live the king," who does that? Who does that? So, look, that is sort of where we are, and it is distressing, and we'll talk some more about it in detail. But meanwhile, as all of this is happening, we're just a few weeks away from a potential government shutdown. So on March 14th, the current funding legislation expires, and although I think Donald Trump and the Doge folks are already functionally starting to shut down government, if we don't come up with a deal, government will fully shut down at that point. We're also well into this thing you may have heard about called extraordinary measures, where the Treasury Department is trying to basically buy time to keep us from defaulting on our debt. So we're some number of weeks away from needing to raise the debt ceiling, or else there could be a catastrophic default on American debt, which has never happened and would trigger a global financial crisis. And of course, we just came out of what will be the costliest natural disaster in American history, the fires in Los Angeles. California is going to be owed billions and billions of disaster relief. We will need a supplemental disaster bill to make that happen. And there's every reason to believe that it could get caught up in all kinds of crazy politics. So I think you can see that there's a lot going on. And I have worried for years that our country was kind of sleepwalking into authoritarianism. It feels in the last 4 weeks like we're speedwalking into authoritarianism. So that's where I'm focused. That is where I am focused. That's what I'm going to be working on. And if you're worried about these same things, all I can tell you is there is no playbook, there is no operating manual, because we've never seen anything like this in our country's history. But I'll tell you the way I'm trying to approach it. I am trying to be selective. We cannot light our hair on fire about every single thing. So I'm trying to focus on the fights where I have a chance of stopping something really bad from happening, or the fights where I feel like there is a legal or a moral imperative where I've just got to have the fights. And there will be some where I'm probably going to lose, at least in the short term, but you got to do it anyway to hopefully set up for a longer term turnaround and victory. So, folks, that's a little bit of scene setting, and now let's go to you and your questions. Instead of shouting them out, we're just going to raise our hands. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. I invite your participation.
Who's in charge?
Okay.
I invite your participation, but you got to raise your hand, and we'll get to you with a microphone.
We have a question
Go right ahead.
Congressman.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question is about the fact that it's my understanding that the best way to elect the president is the national popular vote for president, and that this, if they could put that into place, the popular vote will elect the president, and the electoral college, importantly, will be eliminated. 18 states have approved
right, I got it. National popular vote.
Do you agree?
I do agree, but I'm not going to mislead you. We're nowhere close to having a national popular vote in the country. I'd love to see it. I agree with you. It would be more fair. It would be more democratic. It'd be beneficial in so many ways because candidates for president would have to campaign everywhere. And right now, they're simply looking at their bingo card and the electoral college, and they're going to the places where they think they can get electoral votes and pretty much ignoring everywhere else, except they all come to California for money for some reason. So, yeah, it would be so much better, but it would require a constitutional amendment to really happen. I'm familiar with the kind of workaround schemes where states could pass state laws pledging their electors to the national popular vote. And, there's a constitutional debate about whether that is legal, but I think there's a bigger debate about whether it's durable. Because even if you might get it to work for a while, as soon as a state was forced to pledge their electoral votes to someone other than who their state voted for, they're going to change that state law and it's going to go away. So I don't see that as a durable fix. And unfortunately for the time being, we're kind of stuck with the electoral college. Riley, over here? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Nancy, and I just wanted to say thanks for having this town hall.
Thank you.
I'm wondering what the Democratic strategy is in trying to slow Trump down and Republicans, and I just feel like, how do we slow him down? Like, what's the Democratic strategy? I don't feel like you guys are really speaking out much.
Well, I think, yeah, thanks. I hear this a lot. Let me just say I'm one Democrat in the House of Representatives, and I can tell you what my strategy is. I am not interested in fighting just for the sake of fighting. The reason I am opposing so many of these actions and policies by Donald Trump is they have incredibly terrible consequences for our country. They're bad for our democracy. They're bad for the rule of law. So. I think when we talk about the Democrats, it's very important to remember that Democrats in Congress are in the minority. The only thing we can use are the tools that we have in the minority, and I wish I had a whole bunch of tools that right now I just don't. I cannot issue subpoenas. I cannot hold formal hearings. We can do events that kind of look and feel like hearings, but not actual hearings. We can't introduce bills that actually are guaranteed to get votes on the floor. So we can't even force Republicans into tough votes on many of these things, although there are some parliamentary maneuvers that we can and will use. You have a few tools in the minority. Basically what I am doing with my House Democratic colleagues right now, is trying to make the most of the messaging and the work that we do in committee, in the debates that we have. We are working with the folks who are litigating out there, and this is just a huge part of upholding the rule of law right now. We think that the courts are likely to still be a bulwark for the rule of law, and you can see that there are dozens of lawsuits that have already been filed in all sorts of venues with conservative Republican judges, many of them appointed by Trump, who have told him that what he's doing is illegal in many cases. Now, these will go through the appellate process, but what I can do with my colleagues is work with those groups and litigants, because we don't have standing to litigate as House Democrats in the minority in Congress, but we can help build a record that's useful to those litigants, and we can work with them to help track compliance with court orders, which is going to be a huge part of this constitutional test. It's one thing to get a court saying, you can't eliminate USAID or some other agency because you don't have congressional authorization to do it. It's another to get this administration to comply with that order. And so that'll probably be one of the next big tests. Will the administration comply with orders that it doesn't like? And we don't know for sure. Okay. I will explain. I hear you. And believe me, my eyes are wide open. All right. I don't expect clean compliance. We may not have any compliance from this administration. But I talk to a lot of legal experts and some of the top scholars and the folks that are litigating these cases right now. And I will tell you, they believe it's not a simple thing to just ignore, especially Supreme Court orders. People like to talk about Andrew Jackson doing that back in the day, right? That is an apocryphal story. It's not true. Andrew Jackson did not defy a Supreme Court order when he marched the Seminoles down the Trail of Tears. That was a Supreme Court order against the state of Florida, not against the federal government. So I'm digressing into a little history lesson to make a point that was made to me by some legal scholars and lawyers, just to say that, you know, we shall see whether when we get to that there's actual open non-compliance with a court order, because it's not a simple thing to do, and there will be an enormous public backlash, maybe even a backlash from Congress, if that actually happens.
Hi.
Yeah.
My name is Sonia. I'm from San Rafael. My question is, what can citizens do to get former U.S. presidents or any kind of previously elected official to condemn what Trump is doing to Ukraine? The most atrocious thing about this is some people are saying that telling Ukraine that they have to have elections, especially Trump and Putin telling Ukraine that they have to have elections is just insane.
Yeah.
And they're not only them, but like Senator Josh Hawley, a Republican from Missouri, and Eric Schmidt from Missouri also reiterated the same thing. And it's just despicable what they're doing. It's putting our country at great danger for the next few years, and not only us, obviously Ukraine, and all of Europe. And in 2 days, Trump has put NATO at the greatest risk we've ever been at, and this is just horrendous.
I agree. Yeah. So thank you for that. I don't think I can improve on the problem statement that you just gave. In terms of what we do about it, you know, we're counting on. I don't know that former presidents condemning it would make that much of a difference. I'm sure they will condemn it. But what we really need is Republicans in Congress to do it. And so I have heard some statements indicating that there are still some believers in our alliances and in the world order that has kept us out of a world war for the last 70 plus years. I mean, this stuff has worked. It's not perfect, but wow, to see us flip it 180 degrees and to suddenly talk about being allies with Russia and with North Korea, it's just sickening. And you know, I'm hoping that there are Republicans who will feel that way and finally find the courage to stand up to Donald Trump. They didn't have the courage when all of these obviously disqualified nominees sailed through Senate confirmation. They said things that sounded serious and then they caved and voted. But I hope on Ukraine, I don't know why. I know I would not have voted to confirm these people. But I know with Ukraine, maybe this is a bridge too far even for them. So we hope that'll be the case.
Do you have a plan to take Trump down?
Let's keep moving around the room. Okay, over here.
Hi, my name is Karen, and I'm here in Petaluma. You know, I really believe from everything that I've heard that it's not business as usual in Congress.
Yep.
And for our leaders or for the rest of us, it's time to fight back. My husband and I went to a meeting with Indivisible.
Yep.
Check them out. Anyway, but they said that they've had a lot of success in protesting and calling, you know, different Congress people, including Republicans. I mean, I can email you, but I can't email Lisa Murkowski.
I think she's one of the good ones, by the way, so I would send you to others. Yeah.
You can look them up on their websites, and you can find their phone numbers, and you can call them. These are Republicans. So they need to hear from us. We can't just be calling Huffman all the time. We need to be calling these Republicans who are afraid. They're afraid and they're isolated. Like, Lisa Murkowski and, my God, Mitch McConnell.
Where to direct your energies and activism? Is that the...
Well, no, the question is that, I like to write emails.
Okay.
But I've been told to call. So is there a difference in which one is better for us to do, to call versus?
So I think do whatever you can. I think people should engage. They should be in contact with congressional offices, including mine. Even if you agree with me, I welcome you weighing in. I think that engagement, there's some inherent value in just that. But if you want to try to change the minds of Republicans in Congress who can make a difference on all of this stuff, I think either a phone call or if you are able to get to their town halls, especially if you have family or friends in their district that are their constituents, that is really valuable. And that's how Indivisible did it the last time, right? In 2017, when we stopped the repeal of the Affordable Care Act, it was that presence in Republican congressional offices and Republican congressional districts that really turned up the heat and made a huge difference. And it probably will take something like that again.
Hello, my name is Mark Vinak. I'm of Ukrainian descent.
Oh, good for you.
Personal. I'd like to know, given that we have an executive branch who is supposed to be enforcing the laws, and instead they are violating them at their whim, why is it business as usual? I know it's not business
it's not
as usual,
business, yeah.
But it feels like we're going after courts and trying to get them to side with us. But it's all, it seems like it's all for naught if he's not going to enforce the laws that you guys passed. So I want to know if anyone has approached or talked to the Joint Chiefs to see if they will honor their oaths of office and arrest these people, Musk and Trump, put them on trial, and make it visible for everybody.
So I understand the sentiment behind that question and that comment. I want to just say a couple things in response. First, I assure you, from the perspective of someone in the trenches right now in Congress, just 24/7 on this stuff, this is not business as usual. I promise you it's not. The work we are doing with outside litigants, the planning that we are doing, the strategizing we are doing, it is a tool set that I wish was stronger. I wish we were in the majority. Then there's all kinds of different things we could do, but we are really stretching to use all of the tools that we do have. And we don't have the ability to direct the military to do anything. But I will tell you, and I'm not suggesting that there should be a military coup or anything like that. That's not the way we solve this. But I will say this. Last year you may know that I started this. I saw the seeds of this stuff in Project 2025 last year, and I created a congressional task force called the Stop Project 2025 Task Force. And we did a lot of work to bring Project 2025 and that really dark authoritarian agenda into the national conversation. We were pretty effective. It went from like nowhere to surpassing Taylor Swift in internet searches in a period of months. And it became such a political liability that Donald Trump had to lie about it. He had to disavow it and pretend that it was not his agenda. So why am I telling you this? Because in the course of the meetings and the roundtables and other work that we did on that task force, we met with civil society groups that had been gaming out all of these scenarios, including these breakouts to dictatorship and what happens through these different federal agencies when there are these purges, when there are these illegal and unconstitutional actions. They believed that one of the courts are going to be one of the bulwarks against it, but one of the others is the military. And I don't mean to suggest, again, a military coup or anything like that, but members of the military, officers in the military, are trained to only follow constitutional orders. Okay? And so I think I continue to have some hope that when confronted with, violations of posse comitatus and all kinds of other laws, that our military will do their duty to the Constitution, not to Donald Trump, and ask the president to restate the order in a lawful way, or do something else that would not be treasonous, would actually be in keeping with their constitutional duty. But I think that's the kind of thing that I hope we will see from the military. Now, even that is something that they're going after, because today Pete Hegseth is drawing up a list of military generals and officials that he wants to get rid of. So, I will look, none of this is simple, none of this is easy. We are in so many levels of uncharted constitutional territory. I'm just going to try to be as circumspect and strategic as I can in navigating it. Where are we?
Congressman, question in the back.
In the back?
Right here.
There you are. Hi.
Susie Grady, constituent here in Petaluma. And so what I'm hearing is there's a path through the legislature. There's a potential path through the court. Those of us who haven't been studying Project 2025, I think, in organizing at the grassroots level, have concern about missteps or potentially organizing in ways that fall into what's expected. And I've heard a lot of talk about concerns about, vigilante justice or other things that have people really worried and concerned about exercising their civil rights to organize. And so I'm just wondering, can you say from your perspective what you need in partnership from grassroots organizing?
Yes. Thank you. I am really glad you asked that question, because I've been talking about all these limited tools that I have that we're going to try to use effectively. But the biggest tool that any of us have is public opinion. It is the most powerful backstop against this. And you know what? The American people, the norms of democracy and the rule of law are still really powerful things. And so I think the engagement, I'm starting to see it. I got 1,000 RSVPs for this town hall. That would not have happened a couple of months ago. And all of my colleagues are reporting the same thing. Something's going on. There's an awakening right now in this country as people start connecting the dots about what's going on. So you have enormous power in the weeks and months ahead. You asked what I would suggest or ask of you. Get engaged. Be part of groups. Do it peacefully. All right? I really want to underscore that. We do not want to go down the road of political violence. Do it peacefully, but you know what? Peaceful civic engagement is still enormously powerful, and I think can ultimately be what makes the difference here.
Okay, up here, over here. Hi, my name is Carol Straw. My husband John and I live in San Rafael. We moved here 10 months ago from Northern Virginia. Jerry Conley was our congressman.
Oh, yeah.
I have a more specific question. I certainly agree with all the questioners here. One of the most recent executive orders was the president signing an executive order, I guess today, to eliminate the Presidio Trust here in San Francisco, which gets no federal funding. Is there any legitimacy, any water to this? What do you see happening with this executive order?
Yeah. I hadn't seen that, but geez, nothing surprises me anymore. I guess I would say this. I would be shocked if President Trump has the legal authority to eliminate the Presidio Trust. I just don't think he can do that. I am certain that Congress has enacted authorities that create that trust and support that trust. So, he can act like he's doing it, just like he does in a bunch of his executive orders. A lot of them are just almost comically illegal on their face. Some of the things he said about California water You know, some of his lies about the Los Angeles fires. And often I think he does this stuff to trigger us, right? Without any real intention of trying to make it happen. So it's a good example of something that is upsetting. We certainly should keep our eyes wide open and track all of this stuff. But I'm not sure that, you know, that executive order is the hill that I want to die on right now, because I think it's probably invalid on its face.
Thank you, Representative Huffman. My name is Nick Stewart. I'm from Sebastopol, former councilman there. Given the inability of your Republican colleagues in the House to coalesce around a funding bill, will Democrats not help them pass the progressive bill and allow the government to shut down?
Yeah. So let me talk about the March 14th deadline and just sort of the politics that we are heading into here in the next few weeks. You know how narrow the House majority is, right? It's 3 votes right now. So they need Democratic votes because most congressional Republicans never vote to fund the government. And they certainly never vote to raise the debt ceiling. This is like a point of pride in their careers. They like to say, I've never voted for a federal budget, I've never voted for a debt ceiling increase. So Democrats have a moment of leverage coming up. And I think there is no doubt that Republicans intend to shut down the government to try to squeeze Democrats into capitulation. All right? And they know that Democrats don't like government shutdowns. It's one of the reasons that they're kind of starting to do a pre-shutdown with all of these agencies and all these DOGE actions. So I think my Democratic colleagues and I in the House, right now at least, are quite united. I think we're also focused on the fact that just getting to an agreement on some top-line budget number is not going to be good enough. While all of this rule of law stuff and Article 1 violation and constitutional crisis is unfolding, we're going to need assurances that are real, that we can count on, that'll preserve our constitutional order, that'll preserve Congress's Article 1 authority. And so I can't tell you exactly what a deal like that would look like, but I don't think Democrats are going to be a cheap date. At least I'm not going to be.
Representative Huffman, my name is Bali, and I'm 16 years old, and I'm here today. Because I'm terrified for my future. I studied AP US history, and I've seen this story before. I've read about how democracies crumble in the face of fascism and how leaders try to compromise with extremists. I've learned how the world appeased Hitler, thinking they could control him, thinking they could reason with him. And now I'm watching history repeat itself. Donald Trump and his neighbors are not just political opponents. They are a threat to democracy, to our rights, to our very existence. Strongly worded tweets and polite condemnations, but no real action. You cannot reason with those who want to strip us of our freedoms.
Yes.
My generation is watching everything you do. We are not passive. We are informed, engaged, and overwhelmingly left-leaning. We are anti-genocide in Gaza. We are anti-deportation. We are pro-worker, pro-climate, pro-Ukraine. We are not interested in politicians who claim to represent the people while doing the bare minimum to fight for us. So I'm here to tell you it's time to act. We know that Democrats have tools at their disposal to block Trump's agenda. The indivisible movement has laid it out clearly. Procedural hardball, delay tactics, using every ounce of leverage to stop the far-right assault on our country. I'm asking you, will you fight? Will you use every tool you have to stand against this, or will you just tell us how bad it is will likely happen? You want to support, not just now. You need to prove that you stand with the people. History will remember what you do next, and so will we. Thank you.
All right. I think somebody's getting an A in AP history. That was beautifully said. Look, if any of you think that I or any other member of Congress don't understand what's going on, or that we're somehow going soft on this rush to dictatorship, this attack on our Constitution, the rule of law, you should let us hear it. I promise you I am doing everything I can. You're going to see more than just communication, more than words, but words do matter because our communications and our platforms are one of the tools we have. So we're going to keep doing that. I'll probably do some tweets, but I'll also be over on Blue Sky, all right? And I'll be doing podcasts, and I'll be trying to get out in all these weird new mediums where I guess people get their information these days. I want to be fully engaged in all that, but we're also going to be doing a lot of work that you might not see every minute of every day on social media. I promise you, whether it is using the legislative tools, the parliamentary tools, the oversight tools, the messaging tools that we have, or the electoral tools, because there is a midterm election coming up. It is 110% on all of it, I promise you. And you're absolutely right about history and appeasement of dictators, but it wasn't Poland that fell first, it was the Rhineland, and then it was Austria, and then it was the Sudetenland. And so it went, and the world just kind of found ways to accommodate. We cannot let that happen in Ukraine, which will soon be Moldova and Latvia and Estonia and so forth. So I do understand history quite well, and I see the parallels, and they are dark and they are real. I totally agree with you on that. Thank you.
I'm Suki Rob Wilder from Belgrande and Monte Rio out on the river. And I first met you when you opened the bridge over Willow Creek.
I remember that, yeah.
You are one of the strongest congressmen that I know. You began the task force on Project 2025 on my birthday. Thank you! Of my life, basically. So I have a question for you. As one of the strongest congresspersons in Congress, how are you going, there is a tool, by the way, that I think the Democrats need to use.
Okay.
But it hasn't been used so far. And that's, I think the Democrats need to become united as a party of opposition to anything that the Republicans want to do. To democratic values, the values of democracy, and how are you going to work to unite the Democrats?
Okay. Look, there are a lot of good ideas out there about how we can really leverage the tools we do have in the minority of Congress. And I don't mean to be dismissive about any ideas that get thrown out. Okay, even though I am feeling like I'm in these trenches 24/7. I'm trying not to be defensive about all the ideas. There's stuff I'm sure I haven't thought of, okay? But I cannot unify all 215 members of the House Democratic Caucus around a we will vote no on every single thing agenda. It won't happen. I don't have the ability to do it. I doubt that Indivisible or anyone else has the ability to do it. And I'm not sure, if it's just casting symbolic protest votes and being disobedient, I'm not sure that's what's going to make the difference anyway. I do think when push comes to shove on March 14th, that's one of those moments where we sure as hell better be united. And we've got to look for those moments of real leverage, not just performative stuff, but real difference-making leverage. And I will push as hard as I can to unite every one of my Democratic colleagues in those moments, I promise you. Okay?
Thank you, Congressman Huffman, for holding this town hall. Thank you, my fellow constituents out here for attending. My question to you is, will you make a commitment here tonight to continue to introduce legislation to reverse the Supreme Court ruling of Citizens United in and will you also commit here tonight to introduce
legislation for term limits, because in this constituent's opinion, the major problem that has gotten us here right now is all of the dark money, and both Democrats and Republicans receive that equally. And it has caused this quagmire we are in, and the term limit where people are there till their last dying breath, I think is part of the problem, because everybody gets a little comfortable because you don't live in the same world we all are living in. And that's my question. I want to know if there's going to be a commitment where you send out a newsletter letting us know how many times.
All right. Gotcha. So, the first question, Citizens United, that's easy. I've been opposing Citizens United since the dawn of time. I will continue to do everything I can in co-sponsored legislation, and way more than just Citizens United. We've got a whole bunch of other, even worse decisions and policies that have come up since that terrible Supreme Court decision. So count on me to do everything I can to get the dark money out of politics and move us towards more transparency, more limits on big money, and more public financing and other democratic reforms. Term limits, I promise you there are different opinions in this room about that. Yes. I think term limits is kind of fool's gold as a reform. I don't think it's real. I have operated under term limits when I was a state legislator in Sacramento. It didn't work. It was kind of a false hope of real reform, and it could actually backfire and make things worse, especially with the dark money problem. One of the things we look to, right now in Washington are politicians that have the courage to stand up to Donald Trump, knowing that they are going to be primaried. And sometimes it's the ones that have been around long enough to really have built great reputations and great relationships with their constituents that can take that chance. And if it's just a revolving door of weaklings, it could even get worse than it is right now. My personal opinion about term limits, it's not a great policy, except maybe for Supreme Court justices.
My name is Patty Latch. I'm in Petaluma.
Hi.
And I think we need some direct action by the people. And I'm thinking of March, April 15th, it's tax time. I'm not sure who would get the money if we pay our taxes and what's going to be done with it. I think must is in control of all of that. And so many departments have been closed. I have a big question about why would we be paying our taxes?
This is another one. I totally understand where you're coming from. And I do hear this a lot. Californians should just stop paying our taxes. The problem is the state of California does not collect and remit our federal taxes. It goes direct to the federal government. So yeah, it's true. We're a donor state to the national treasury. We're the fifth largest economy in the world. We're, being subjected to all of this bullying from Donald Trump and abuse and illegality. It would be great if we, as a state of California, or even as individuals, could just say, we're going to withhold our taxes until you stop that stuff. You can't do it. You just can't do it because of the way federal income taxes are collected. So I wish I could give you a better answer, but I think that's probably not where we want to focus our opposition right now, and let's look for some other ways.
Hello. My name is David R. Miller from Nevada. I'm going to speak in behalf of what the younger people that I've heard here said in the process of politics. And I'd like to speak to the people of politics here. President Lincoln had two references to vision. One was a house divided against itself. Another was a nation that stands together as individuals always wins. Now, I ask how the people can go beyond the past loss recently. Such tyranny of billions of dollars, possibly high-tech schemes, and to reach many, many people concerned in very positive ways. That people of the nation beyond the politics, people on the farmlands, people of laborers, young people are organizing for unions. These are where the power for the people belong. We can't protest and win. We didn't do it in the 60s. We had 2 administrations ignore that. So please help us. I'd like to have you help us as individuals. What we can do as individuals, I believe, from my past, and I've done a lot of creative work to reach individuals in advertising. I'd like people to learn what they can do for themselves.
Thank you for your passion. I want to tell you that I feel that same passion. If I am projecting, some modicum of holding it together, don't be fooled. I am really consumed by this stuff, and I feel it in all the same ways that all of you do. But I also got to get back in that arena every day and be as effective as I can be for all of you. So I will try my best to channel that passion into the ways that I think are most effective. But all of you can do that too, right? Don't wait for some messaging messiah in Washington, for the Democrats, to start saying the things that make you feel better on television. Do everything you can. And my advice to you is be part of a group. There's strength in numbers. There's an intrinsic value in coming together like this with your fellow citizens and being in dialogue, but also beyond that, being part of a group that is engaged, a civil society group, a pro-democracy group, that can really amplify and leverage your individual voice and your power. That's how social movements kind of build, and it's how they work. And I do see it starting to happen now. I hope all of you will consider doing that.
Yes, I'm Bill Colgate. I live in Knowles Corner near Sebastopol. Friends and I have been calling Congressperson Jared and senators. Do you have any idea about what I'd like to call other people in Congress, because I've lived in 3 or 4 or 5 other states, so I feel like I could say that I have a relationship. Now, who are possibly leading in the direction of getting rid of the cactocracy?
Cactocracy. That's a good word.
Could we, do you have any ideas as Republicans that might be worth calling on that?
Well, I do, yeah. You can do the math in the House of Representatives. Right now, it's about 3. We got to count to 3, and it may depend on the issue. Okay, so like one of the things that we are fighting for right now is hanging on to the climate actions that we've achieved in the last administration. And Donald Trump, through his executive orders, is going after them directly, but they're also going to try to roll back a lot of these clean energy incentives and use them to pay for their dystopic billionaire tax cut that's coming. All we need is 3 Republicans to say no. These programs are doing great. They're bringing domestic manufacturing back. They are creating jobs in red states and red districts. They are helping us decarbonize the economy. There's just nothing but good coming from all of these reforms right now. And it's an example of how if we can just get 3 Republicans. Now, 14 House Republicans, 14 signed a letter saying that they wanted to hang on to these clean energy incentives. So I think some focused advocacy toward... Yeah, there are like some ethical rules that prohibit me. I know this sounds weird, but House ethics rules prevent me from telling you, go call this Republican. I can't say that, but you can figure it out. You can figure it out. And, groups like Indivisible can help you figure it out.
Hi, Congressman Huffman, DC-59 from Santa Rosa, former executive director of Sonoma County Conservation Action, as many of you might know. You are one of the strongest congressmen in the country in terms of the backing you have in your district from your voters. You have nothing to fear. People will re-elect you, and they're more likely to re-elect you if you go hard. Fundraisers for the DNC. So we would love to see you put pressure not just in Congress but also on the Democratic Party to go hard. I'm asking a few things. Whether you are willing to say that you will not vote for the budget and join the Courage Caucus unless they take out all of these poison pill amendments and they refund the government and they stop impoundment. And also, protecting the IRA and bill and chips, we need those climate investments to move forward. They can't be stopped. Why is Musk not being asked to divest his individual stocks? I think that's a federal agency. And why are all of the DOJ staff allowed to join these agencies without a full federal hiring process, which we know takes months and months and months? There are things that we would like to be asking more, and we want the DNC also to be asking these questions more, getting into the alternative media, getting their voices out there. We can't just hold press conferences. That's very 1990. We need to be in 2025. We need to get onto podcasts. We need to get onto alternative media, we need to get on social media, and you have the power to do that. So I'm asking you if you will do that, and of course, and to respond to that, and let us know what your plans are.
Yeah, thanks, Daisy. So. Look, I'm doing all of that and more, and I think I have conveyed to you about as clearly as I can where I'm going to be on this March 14th deadline. I am going to insist on safeguards and reforms and other assurances that matter, and not window dressing that Donald Trump can just turn around and ignore. So stick with the next few weeks. Watch what I do. But in terms of the concern about what we're saying and how we're saying it, there's a lot of effort into that's going on right now too. And I guess the notion that some of our Democratic leaders, I'm not going to say every Democrat I work with in Congress is perfect, they're not, but leaders like Hakeem Jeffries are just fantastic. And I will tell you, he's not going soft. He is not. And anyone who thinks he is just maybe not quite understanding or not following everything he's doing every single day. I see it because I'm in the room. We're very fortunate to have a leader with his talent and his courage and his effectiveness. And I think he's going to see us through this unprecedented and really dark moment that we're struggling with.
I'm Bonnie Allen, long-term Petaluma resident. I understand that there's a very slim Republican majority in Congress, and I'm wondering what you're doing to get us all aware of and in support of the Democratic candidates that are running for open seats in Congress right now.
Yeah. Again, you're not going to like the fact that I can't talk about campaigns, because that is an ethics line that I can't cross. But if you want to talk to me about that outside of this room, I promise you'll be happy with the answer. I'm very active, and I'm doing everything I can. So we got to win elections. We have to win elections.
Hello, Congressman. Susan Vico here. I have been in the world of advocacy, especially on behalf of the environment and renewable energy, for the last 30 years of my life. We've talked about that. And they seem to be, I'm reconnected with people I've not spoken to since junior high school who look to me for guidance that can be believed. In any case, there seem to be two schools of thought: run hard at the opposition, as was suggested earlier, or as one of my messaging and lobbying colleagues back in DC says, let's let them do Operation Overreach and screw themselves, and it, like, somehow magically it will go away. I believe more in the former than the latter. I will
year ago, I've spent more time, more hours waking and not sleeping actually, lobbying, calling, writing emails. You
Yep.
write to congressmen, it's always first_last at their last name, .senate.gov. Copy a chief of staff on the email, copy the comms director, and copy the legislative director if you're going to email. I have a list I'm happy to share of every congressional office. Here is my concern. It came through in reporting, I think yesterday or the day before, that Senator Tillis was on the verge of voting against Pete Hegseth. And he felt intimidated, physically intimidated, and decided not to.
Right.
So why doesn't the DNC put its shekels together and pay for private protection for some of the handful of senators who want to do the right thing, have been voluble about it? And the people who leap to mind are Senator Curtis of Utah, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, Lisa Murkowski, and Susan Collins.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to pick on girls, because that's how they want to say it. I'm really serious about this.
Yeah.
How it's fun to protect the people who want to do the right thing if they're being absolutely intimidated. That's number
Got it.
one. So it's Tillis. It seems to be Bill Cassidy, depending on the day. It's Senator Curtis and a handful of others.
Yeah.
Secondly, I wanted to echo what the last couple of people said, which is, why isn't Ken Martin sending out a list of the most viable candidates for those 3 open seats? Gates's, Waltz's, and Elisa, what's
Stefanik. Yeah.
Somebody, you have a captive audience of people who want to help. Tell us who the most viable person is running for those 3 seats. I will spend your money.
All right, Susan, listen, thank you. Thank you for your passion and your alarm at what's going on. You're not wrong to feel that at all. I will say that a lot of your question is taking me into the political side, the campaign side, that I apologize, folks. In an official town hall, I can't be as candid with you as I would like to be. But I also know the DNC doesn't do what I tell them to do anyway. And the idea that Tillis or Cassidy or anyone else would accept security help or other support from Democrats, I think, is a little bit wishful. I'm as distressed about Tillis and Cassidy and everyone else as any of you. I just don't think there's some magic bullet that our new chair of the Democratic Party could invoke to somehow change where they are. I think they are working in a political ecosystem that we have very little even visibility into, let alone influence. That's just my opinion, but the DNC is not going to listen to me in any event. So feel free to suggest to them, what you think they should do. Yeah, I don't know Ken Martin. Yeah. I know. I've never met him. I don't know him. He's brand new. I hope he's good. We going over here? Yeah.
Hello, Congressman. I'm Patrick Lundy from Petaluma County. Yes, I do remember spending some effort in 2017 helping pivot that indivisible movement so that we could take Congress back to you in 2018. And most of my words were already taken by the fabulous 16-year-old over there. I wish I was wrong, but I don't think we have time for that this time around. I'm going to say the hard thing. Adolf Hitler did this in 53 days. Trump is already in dereliction of duty. Immediately after swearing his oath, he immediately broke it by issuing unconstitutional, illegal, frankly immoral, and outright cruel executive orders, and he continues to do so. Your colleagues across the aisle have demonstrated that they aren't going to do anything to stop them, and you're in the minority. And the Supreme Court, I'm sorry, it's been illegitimate since Mitch McConnell stymied the Garland nomination, and now it's going to bother me. It's really sad. So, I don't think that you're going to be able to fix the situation. I think we are going to have to fix the situation. It's going to take 3.5% of us, which is 11 million people, out in the streets performing non-violent civil disobedience to fix this problem. So my question is, who cares?
I will be there with you. I will be there with you.
I'm from Petaluma, California. First of all, I want to say there are 3 special elections coming up, 2 April 1st. You can go on, they're in Florida, Gay Belmont, and Josh Wild. You can phone bank, you can text, you can donate. And there's a special election in New York. They don't have a date set for that, and they're all 3 candidates are set. All 3 candidates are set. So if we can take 1 seat, that will help Jared. So it's time we please get one of those. But my question to you is, and this has not been brought up at all, is ICE.
ICE, yeah.
They come to Sonoma County, which apparently I found out they had to come to Healdsburg. I didn't know that. So I want to know what are the preparations being made when they do come here, because we know how much he loves California.
Yep.
So just answer that question, that's all.
No, thank you for that. Thanks for saying the political stuff that I'm not allowed to say. I appreciate it. So I'm glad you asked about ICE and immigration, because we all know that Donald Trump campaigned very explicitly on a policy of mass deportation, including detention camps and levels of deportation, including involving the military, things that in the past, we have never done. We are not yet seeing it. I'm not saying that's not something to worry about, because I think it is coming. I really do think it is coming. But it's a lot easier to say you're going to do this stuff and to see the public opinion polls that weirdly show that it's kind of popular. I don't like that about our country right now. But right now, a majority of Americans think mass deportation sounds like a good idea. I will tell you when it ceases to be popular, when they hear the details. When they start finding out about these concentration camps that will be housing large numbers of people. And it sounds like, we're already creating one in Guantanamo. I saw a very disturbing report today about some of these folks that have been deported to hotels in Panama. And I don't know who these deportees are or anything about their cases. Maybe they're violent criminals. I don't know. But I know that when you have people holding signs up to windows that say, "Help me," that have had their passports taken away, that are stuck indefinitely in this limbo situation, that's disturbing. And that begins to have echoes of really darker policies that in our country and other places don't look good in the eyes of history. So we're going to need to be on high alert. It's going to be worse than it was in 2017, in my opinion, because these policies are going to be untethered. Back last time around, my office was able to really help people not only to know their rights, and we're going to do that this time, know when you have to show ID, when you have to open your door, when you don't. We're already doing that and sharing that information. But we were able to get real-time information about ICE raids, about when people were being detained, what were their names, why were they being detained, where were they being detained. We were able to validate whether some places actually were sanctuaries, where churches and schools and things like that were off limits for ICE. I'm not sure any of that's going to apply this time around. And so there is this palpable fear in the community. I was meeting with an immigrant rights group yesterday to talk about this. I know that you all have neighbors and family members and friends that are probably worried about this in a big way. And there is reason to be worried. So all I can tell you is that I'm going to do everything that I can to be a source of good information and support for the community, to try to keep families together. This will eventually become deeply politically unpopular, I believe, for Donald Trump. When the details start getting real for people, when the effects on economies and communities and families start getting real for people. And so for that reason, I think they're going to try to do it very fast. And we're just going to all have to stay alert and stay engaged and stay together, because what happens to these communities, we've all got a stake in that, I believe.
North Bay Rapid Response Network.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Uribe from here in Petaluma. A question that's been kind of bugging me for a while is there any plans to sort of have a leader figure for the Democratic Party to rally around, or just a big rally around? more with like people like AOC or Representative Alexandria. She's been really active in the community, like telling people to rise and wake up these ice raids and like encouraging people to go out and protest. I feel like, I don't know, just that we really need a leader to rally around right now in these dark times, especially because people are social animals, you know, we as much as I said, we like to play all of the leaders, like, maybe at least like find someone to rally around.
What am I, chopped liver? So, Nicholas, it's a great question. I hear this a lot, and I think we all wish there was some democratic messaging messiah that would be the one place we go to hear exactly the right thing that would have this transformative impact and help us save the day. I think you're going to see that leadership and that messaging from a bunch of different people. And you've mentioned a few that are fantastic. I mean, the way AOC messages and connects with a certain generation and certain constituencies, it's next level stuff. I could never do it, and she's great at it. But we also have some other amazing messengers. I think Adam Schiff is doing a phenomenal job as our senator, our California senator. I think Senator Chris Murphy is just on fire right now. And I do think Hakeem Jeffries is just a next level talent as well. And there are others, but I think you're just going to have to look to the messengers that resonate with you and then amplify their message, share it. We got some talent. We got some great messengers, but we just finished a presidential campaign, and Democrats do not right now have a standard bearer. We didn't in 2017 either, though. And Pat Mundy over here was reminding us of all the good work that Indivisible did the last time around. We did not have a singular Democratic messenger, a messiah on all this stuff that put out the beacon on what we said. We just all did it together, and there were a whole bunch of individual great messengers that did awesome leadership during that time. That's, I think, what is going to have to happen right now.
Right here. Right, front row. Right here.
Congressman Huffman, thank you very much for holding this town hall, first of all. And I want to promote Indivisible because they're a great organization to fight against what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm a veteran.
Good.
I was counterintelligence, and then I went to OCS and became an officer during the Vietnam War. I'm connected to Paul Rykoff, who I feel is a really good activist for vets. And I'm convinced from research I've done online since before Trump was elected the first time that he's been in contact with Vladimir Putin for quite a long time. And Musk has been in touch with Vladimir Putin, not as long as Trump has been. Vladimir Putin kind of chose Trump as a megalomaniac, malignant narcissist. But the thing is, I want to reiterate what the young lady, I believe she was from Sebastopol, said, and the gentleman back here said, that we are witnessing a play-for-play replication of what Hitler did in 1933. And Project 2025 is part of that. And they've been conferencing or speaking with Putin about this and how to do this and what to do and getting misinformation and disinformation support from him for quite a while.
Yeah.
So I used to be a support tech for Congressman Thompson.
Okay.
Through Lockheed Martin, which is the way support happens through the House of Representatives. And I kind of got an inside look at his chief of staff. I became friends with him, and so on. So it's just not business as usual anymore. This is an alarming situation, and we all need, and you need to help us and join with us. We need to get out in the streets and stop this.
All right. So. Thank you for your service. I promise you, this is not business as usual from my end of things. We are in this together, and I'm going to do everything I can to keep us together as a strong team to meet this moment and get through it. So thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Representative Huffman. Thank you so much for holding this event.
Sorry, sometimes I can't tell where I'm looking.
Oh, right here.
There you are.
Red shirt.
Yep.
Now that Elon Musk has all of our social security numbers, bank account numbers, and tax histories, how can we know that they're not going to cut our social security payments, jack up our taxes, and drain our bank accounts? And why hasn't he been arrested?
I am glad that you are hopping mad about that, because there is no way Elon Musk and his 20-year-old tech bros without security clearances should have access to that Treasury Department data. And we know that they're trying to get our IRS taxpayer data now too. So you are not wrong to be very concerned about this. And all I can tell you, we've introduced a bill that would stop that. The Republicans won't let us bring that bill to a vote, but we'll do a lot of organizing around it. We'll make a lot of noise around it. We are working with outside groups that are litigating on exactly what you're asking about, and I am hopeful that the courts will be able to give us some measure of protection and add to that just the public outrage and public opinion that I hope will start to manifest around the country. Those are the ways that I think we stop this. Now, I will tell you, we've got this great response here in Petaluma tonight. I'm not sure we're yet to the point where that's the case all over the country. The public polling I see suggests that Doge is not yet toxic. It's getting there. It's getting there, and Elon Musk is getting there. But we've got some work to do in trying to make sure that people connect the dots, the incredible corruption and conflict of interest, and even having Elon Musk involved in some of this data review, any of the stuff he's doing, he shouldn't be doing any of it. So, I promise you, I take it seriously. I'm using all the tools I have. Please, through the groups that you're part of and through the communication platforms that you're part of, do your part to amplify this concern. Let's make this a chorus of outrage in public opinion all over this country.
Hi, Congressman. My name is Margaret. I'm from Sebastopol, and I appreciate you holding this town hall. I have attended many town halls, and typically what happens is the crowd gets worked up. Let's see. Here. Also, just for a time check, we probably have time for about 3 more questions, just for a time check.
Thank you, Jenny.
So here I see the same thing, that we're all worked up, we all want to do something, we want to fight, we want you to fight for us.
Yep.
And when I hear you say, yeah, do it, or go join a group, I feel like that diffuses the energy that we have here. We want to do something, but we want to know what's effective. If we aren't going to fight for, the popular vote, and I understand your point there, if you tell us just do something, well, some of us will go off and do this, and some will do that, but if we all concentrated our energies on just 2 or 3 things, give us a list, tell us what to do, what's effective, where's our power, so that we can use it.
So, the last thing I want to do is dissipate the energy in this room. The reason I am having all of these town halls and spending a huge amount of my time on the communication side of my job is I want to create the energy and I want to support it, but I can't micromanage it. You're not going to want me to tell you exactly which issue to be passionate about because we don't agree on some of these issues. And some of these groups, are going to be attractive to some people, but not to others. But you've heard right here in this room several different groups that you can be part of. Indivisible comes up again and again. So I think that tells you something right there. And they know exactly, they're really good at this. They're way better at it than I am. So I would not presume to tell Indivisible or anyone else which Republicans they got to talk to, or which of the 10 outrageous things going on right now should be prioritized. They're doing polling. They've got their finger on the pulse of the people in the streets, and I will support them. So that's what I hope you're hearing, is that this needs to be organic. It needs to be a sustained, it's not going to be a sprint. This will need to be sustained, and I will support all of you in your engagement and individuals' protests and everything else we got to do to turn this around.
Congressman Phil Gross from Petaluma, Russian River, and CDP World Congress. Please tell us that somebody, somewhere, is working on our version of Project 2029. So that on January 20th of that year, when Kamala, or Gretchen, or Pete, or Gavin, or somebody else walks into the Oval Office, they will find that on their desk and be able to start work immediately and putting our democracy back together.
Yeah, good question. So right now I'm interested in getting through this year to a 2026 midterm election. I think we are going to have to fight like heck to get to that, to make sure we have a democracy that we can go to the polls and actually vote in. But I'm hopeful that together we will be able to make sure that happens. And I think as we get closer to the next presidential cycle, of course, you will see smart, data-driven, strategic think tanks and others putting stuff together. I hope they will not be dumb enough to call it Project 2028 because honestly, Republicans handed us a gift last year with Project 2025, putting all their worst ideas on the internet in a 920-page thing that they were running around swaggering about. And, they gave me something to work with to actually work against them, and it was, I think, pretty effective. But we'll be smarter about it. We will have plans. They will be detailed. They will be good. They will be benevolent. They will not be about ending democracy as we know it. They will be about saving it. And we just got to get from here to there.
Okay, I think this is our last question.
All right.
Right, maybe good. Karen Massey from Petaluma. So Trump has come close to home because my nephew works for the City of Trust, and my grandson was supposed to start with the Parks and Rec, Park Forestry, and that doesn't look like that's happening in April. But anyway, that's not my question. I'm not a big believer in shutting down the government. I think that's the responsibility for all of us. But I do agree that we all have to be very involved, so that the legislature can't do it by ourselves. We have to be sending emails, we have to join the clubs, we have to demonstrate. That's our power. But in terms of the budget, because I do think that the Trump people want to break the government, I don't have a lot of confidence that they're going to come up with a plan. I think they'd be happy to close down the government. What is the risk of his declaring martial law if the government is not functioning?
Yeah. So the risk of declaring martial law if the government is not functioning. Look, you saw in these early executive orders the invocations of a whole bunch of emergency authorities. He has clearly figured out that invoking an energy emergency crisis, may help him do his drill baby drill a little bit better. Invoking a border crisis when our border had kind of slowed to nothing. But invoking that crisis, he knows, will give him cover to do a bunch of extreme things. So, yeah, there are still some additional emergency authorities like the Insurrection Act and other things that he could invoke to do rotten things, and they would be challenged in the court. But, whether it goes as far as martial law and all that, you can't dismiss that out of hand with this guy.
Because he talked about that when there were the summer riots.
So I think it is the reason we have to all be hugely engaged and vigilant and lawyered up. I will tell you that states and local governments, especially our state attorney generals, have been preparing for these moments for a long time. I met with, back when I was doing the Project 2025 task force a few months ago, I met with Tish James and Keith Ellison and all of these badass lawyers who are hiring up and staffing up and developing all of these like never plans, things they never thought they would have to work on. And they're extremely good, and they're off to a really good start. They've been winning cases, and they're not going to stop. So we're not powerless even against these sort of never scenarios. Just stay engaged and stay as involved in these groups civically as you can. I don't want a government shutdown either, I promise you, but I think it is very likely that there will be one, if nothing else, as an attempt by Trump and the Republicans to try to squeeze Democrats into submission, because they know that hurts us.
So do you think we're going to get our...
It is going to be tough. We are all going to have to really steel ourselves for that moment and to not just cave and be cheap dates against those kind of threats. Yeah. Folks, I really appreciate the turnout and the incredible passion and engagement and citizenship that I see in this room. We're going to keep doing these public discussions. I want to stay connected to my constituents. I think we are stronger together. And so I'm going to invite you to, if you have more questions we didn't get to or you just can't get enough, we're going to have a telephone town hall on Monday, February 24th. So ways you can tune in, if you can write this number down, you can call in to 833-858-0007. February number is 833-858-0007. It's going to be Monday, February 24th at 5:30, and we will probably, I've been talking to colleagues who are doing these telephone town halls, they are having tens of thousands of people call in to these events. There really is something going on, and I hope you'll consider being part of it. Thanks for being with me today.